from you and your local community and your state, not the globe. That's where a nightmare is coming. Question is, do we have a shadow government? And if we do, who are those intelligent minority that is guiding us through? And where are they guiding us to? If you skip past all of the puppets and the strings, if you stop looking at the puppets themselves, you have to see who's behind the puppets. Who is choosing the puppets and the players? Who's the puppet master? George Soros.
So George, Glenn Beck has been on this kick that you are actually the mastermind who is trying to bring down the American government. How do you react when you see this kind of thing?
Well, I would be amused if people saw the joke in it, because what he is doing, he is projecting what Fox, what Rupert Murdoch is doing, because he has a media empire that is telling the people some falsehoods and leading the government in the wrong direction. But you know, by accusing me of doing that, it kind of makes it rather hard to see that it's really he is working for the man who's doing it, which is Fox News.
But it's very personal. I mean, he talks about you as a 14-year-old boy, and he accuses you of essentially helping to round Jews up. When you're Jewish yourself, you lost many, many people in the Holocaust. How did you feel when you heard that?
Well, look, Fox News makes a habit. It has imported the methods of George Orwell, you know, Newspeak, where you can tell the people falsehoods and deceive them.
The methods of George Orwell, you know, Newspeak, where you can tell the people falsehoods and deceive them.
He's Citizen Murdoch, the head of the world's biggest private media empire.
Murdoch likes to own newspapers.
Murdoch controls 175 newspapers, book and internet businesses, and some of the most popular and strident TV networks.
You know what I'm doing? Shut up. Shut up about sex. Shut up.
But how healthy is it to concentrate such global power in one man?
It is not defensible as a part of any liberal democracy.
Rupert, is there any agenda that you want to shape?
No, not at all. I mean, I think that we don't have the power to change it. We obviously, if you're in media and you're concerned with what's going on in the world, you'd like to make a difference by putting forward your opinions. But you're not going to change the world completely by that. I think we can't change elections. I think good, strong news organizations can, by disclosing things, can help shape the agenda.
By disclosing things, can help shape the agenda.
But only in a limited way.
For example, take the war.
Hello, I'm Bobby Lee, and this is the Bobby Lee Show. Today we have with us Eustace Mullins, a lecturer, an author of many books, a scholar, Washington Lee University, and today we're going to be talking about several different subjects. But this particular subject is the most important for today's political venue. And Eustace has written a book called The World Order. Now, Mr. Mullins has been working for the last 50 years to research important questions that need to be answered in relationship of Middle America to the political evolution. Eustace, tell us a little bit, if you would, how you got started in being an author.
Well, I had always intended to be an author, but I had intended to write novels, perhaps some poems, and I had absolutely no interest in any research or any nonfiction work. I didn't consider that as creative writing. So I met a poet, a very bohemian person named Ezra Pound, who was then incarcerated without trial on a more or less lifetime basis. And he asked me to look into the banking interest, the Federal Reserve System, at the Library of Congress there in Washington, D.C., and I did this, and I found it to be quite an interesting story, which launched me on research which continues to the present day.
Now, this book, The New World Order, how does the New World Order deal with the banking interest in America and across the world?
Well, you see, in studying the banking system in the United States, I found it was part of an international system of banking called central banks in Europe, and that the Federal Reserve System, which we had here, was simply an American version of the central banks they had in Europe. And I also found that these banks did not exist as some entity in some world of their own. They were an integral part of what I came to call the world order.
Now, Eustace, this New World Order and this banking system, I was under the impression that the banks themselves were American banks and it was the federal government that owned the banks. Are you telling me that our government itself doesn't own these banks?
Well, our government doesn't own anything. We really don't have a government. We're just a colony of England.
How can you say that, a colony of England? Why, I know that they have the Republican Party and the Democrat parties, and I go down to the local bank and I can cash a dollar bill, can't I?
Oh, well, you can go into any colony of Great Britain and cash a check. That doesn't mean you're in an independent nation.
Would you trace for me the colony of Great Britain to the United States and the banks? If I put a Federal Reserve note in the bank today, how can I say or how can you tell me that's a part of a colony of Great Britain?
Well, you see, we started out as a colony of Great Britain, and then presumably we won political independence in the American Revolution. But you see, the American Revolution was not against the bank. The American Revolution was against King George III.
But you see, the American Revolution was not against the bank, not against the bank, not against the bank. The American Revolution was against King George III.
Want to subscribe to their new religion. Good evening, you're on the air.
Hi, Bill. How you doing?
Good.
Yeah, I agree with the last caller there. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I really am disturbed a little bit by George W. and like the stuff that he's doing. But you know, I don't put it past him, and I tell my wife every day that he's Mr. New World Order Jr.
You better believe it. He's his father's son. Who said New World Order first since Hitler?
Yeah.
Who's the first one to say New World Order since Hitler?
Yeah.
Who?
I'm sorry, what is that?
Who is the first person to say New World Order since Hitler?
Oh, his daddy.
That's right.
Poppy Bush.
That's right, and he's his father's son.
Yeah, old Poppy, and the thing up in Yale is Skull and Bones, and I saw the program on the TV. That, of course, they didn't go into detail, but supposedly they mentioned that George W.'s name.
George Jr. is also Skull and Bones, yeah.
Yeah, but they mentioned his name is called Temporary, and his old band is called Poppy. And I told my wife, I said, temporary, huh? I was wondering if that meant anything or not, but I guess we'll find out.
Well, I hope what you're implying does not happen. This nation,
no, I hope not either.
This nation, no matter how bad a president is, this nation cannot stand another assassination.
No, definitely not. That's why
But that's what you were implying, wasn't it?
Well, yes. Because I can't logically think of why would they call somebody that goes through that ceremony, you know, the old man, of course, they called him Poppy, and they said temporary, because that just sounded so completely out of place that I sort of noticed it during the TV show.
Yeah, but you got to remember, it's a secret society. That might be a lie. Maybe that's not what he was called.
Well, that's true.
How would anybody know unless they were in there, and the persons that were in there don't talk about it?
Yeah, that's true. That may not even be, that in itself may be a deception.
Yep.
It's like everything else. Well, I have to go, Bill. Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. Thanks for calling.